right now we are on, we make sure we're recording on YouTube. So today we have Dr. Stephen Grable. He's in the classroom and we are going to be talking about insomnia. So if you have any issues with sleep issues, sleep hygiene, stress, or things that, maybe you fall asleep but you wake up, this is the show for you. So fasten your seatbelt because we are going to learn and grow together. So here we go.
The Lillian McDermott Show.
We love, we fear, bridges we burn, we make mistakes, then we live and learn. When life gets tough, and it seems like your best ain't good enough. If you're in need of hope, you know where I'll be right here. Right here, and when you need a friend, you can count on me. I'll be right here, waiting for you.
This is the place you can always turn to when you need a friend. The Lillian McDermott Show. To reach out to Lillian, visit her on the web at whenyouneedafriend.com. Now let's all learn together. Here's Lillian McDermott.
Hello, my listening friend. It's so nice when we can meet each other on the air on this beautiful, best day ever. And for those of you who have been tuning in to the Lillian McDermott radio show /classroom since 2011, or maybe tuned in yesterday for the first time, welcome back. But if this is the first time that you have heard about the show or the classroom or whatever you want to call it, please know I've been waiting for you. This is a safe place where you can go to when you need a friend. It is my commitment to provide alternative ways to heal, and it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening, as well as my viewing friends on Facebook Live at Lillian's radio show, will feel empowered to embrace a new truth and live the life of your dreams. Now, how many of you, and by the way, if you have any questions throughout the broadcast, because I know this is a very important topic, if you have any questions for Dr. Grable at any time, type in a Q, a large capital Q. That'll alert me that you have a question, because I don't have my team today to tell me that there are questions on in the queue. So type in a Q and you'll get in the queue, and we'll ask your questions throughout the broadcast. But I want to ask you about sleep. Do you have any issues with sleep? Is it hard for you to fall asleep? Is it easy for you to fall asleep, but then you wake up in the middle of the night? Are you eating before you sleep? There's so many different things that we don't know. These are things we do to ourselves that sabotage ourselves, but there are our routines. And these routines may or may not be helping us fulfill that nightly rest, that restorative sleep that is worth $1 million. So I've always said to you that I'm thrilled that I stumbled upon and found Dr. Stephen Grable, and he is the founder of Complementary Care Center in Jacksonville, Florida. He is, you name it, holistic, alternative, functional, complementary, and natural as you can get him, MD. And I am just thrilled because he's also, full disclosure, my doctor, and one who's helping me, help me make decisions with my breast implant illness, and now helping me restore my body back to health. And you get to spend time with him just as much as I do today in the classroom, because the doctor is in the house. And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I am grateful that Dr. Stephen Grable is here to do just that. Welcome back, Dr. Grable, to the Lillian McDermott Radio Show classroom.
Hi there, Lily.
Hey. So, okay. So I shared this with you off the air, and I'm going to say it again, because I don't know about you, but every time I am pushed to the max, what I am willing to give up the most is my sleep. So when you said, let's talk about insomnia, I'm like, I'm all in because I'm hoping to learn so much more than I think I know. It's what I don't know that's making me dangerous. So share a little bit about your background, Dr. Grable, and how you got involved in learning about the natural ways that we do things in our lives and how it affects us.
Okay, well, I'll be brief because imagine some of your listeners have heard this before, but I've been in practice almost 30 years now, and I did 5 years of conventional, and I felt that just throwing drugs at everything wasn't the answer. So for the last 24 years, I've been practicing integrative medicine, where we try to figure out what's going on and try to help get it fixed without having to use a lot of drugs and chemicals and that sort of thing. And I think patients are beginning to see it more and more.
Yes.
I know a lot of nurses are picking up, and even the physicians out there, they're just afraid. There's kind of a pack mentality, and they don't want to deviate from that. So, but I think in time they'll come around.
Absolutely. And you certainly did many years ago. And now you are here to share this new truth. And so again, sleep is something that is so beneficial, but we don't see the value. Most of us don't. And as someone told me, the older I get, the more I will value my sleep. Mm-hmm. And I'm here to tell you that I do, but I still don't honor it. Share a little bit about why, if sleep issues are something that are very prominent in your practice for the results.
Yeah, it's huge. It's almost seems anymore these days a rare person who says I get a good solid night's sleep. So what I always start with is I tell patients that there's 4 things that we need for health: air, food, water, and sleep. And think of these 4 as like the legs of a table. And if any of those legs are missing, the table goes down. And as you pointed out, most people, when they first give up something, is they give up their sleep because they just have this to do and that to do and so forth and so on. Mm-hmm. So the first step is to kind of figure out how many hours of sleep that you need. And it kind of varies, but statistics typically show that it's in the neighborhood of 7 to 8 hours. Some people might need a few more. What I do in my practice is I'll muscle test people. And I had a guy today in there, and he said he gets about 6 hours of sleep. And I muscle tested him, and he held out very strong at 8. So basically every night he's losing 2 hours of sleep. And so over time that can create problems with our immune system and memory and brain function and energy, and just, cause us to feel yuck. Mm-hmm. So what I do is figure out, I would start with probably 8 hours and figure out when you have to get up in the morning and then just work backwards. So let's say you have to be up at 6 a.m. So 10 to 6, that's Betty Bye time. Mm-hmm. And in your mind, have that time as just gone. It's just unavailable. If we had moved here from a magic planet that had 36-hour days and we came to this one with 24 and would say, oh my gosh, how in the world am I going to get everything done? Well, you'd have to. You just be more efficient, and you'd have to organize your time. Mm-hmm. So that time should be set aside for sleep because it is so crucial. So I can go on and just lecture, or you can ask questions.
Oh, I didn't know if you were done. I didn't know if you were done. I just wanted to, yes. And those 8 hours. Okay. So how do you muscle test somebody into 8 hours? How did you, is the body responding that, 8 hours is best for them, but if you muscle test me, will you get 6 hours is best for me?
That's very possible. Right. So, and a lot of us, we kind of get a sense of how many hours we need. You look back, especially I always ask people to say, look back when you were a teenager. And of course, teens, they have really erratic.
3 hours.
They're up till 2, 3 in the morning, this kind of stuff. But you can kind of get a flavor for how many, like for example, myself, 7 to 8 hours is good. If I get much less than that, I really feel it. Now, I'll give you a little pearl that if you don't pick up anything else from our visit today, is 10 to 2 is the optimal time for sleep. So that's 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. and actually 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So something happens during those. It probably has to do with our Chinese clock. In our body, we have 12 meridians, and there's 2 hours for each meridian. But if you can get any amount of sleep during that 10 to 2, that can be very magnified throughout the day. We're taught this 8-hour, everybody sleep 8 hours, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know if you knew this, but that started with the Industrial Revolution.
No.
And there's a researcher from Virginia Tech, Roger Ekirch, I think it's Ekirch. But anyway, he's researched and found that actually what happened is way back when people go to bed an hour or two after sunset, so maybe 8 o'clock, they'd wake up typically around midnight, and they would be quite active. And they'd go around, they'd visit their friends and do whatever. And after a couple, 3 hours, they'd go back to bed for 4 hours. And I've always found it interesting. I always, like on a weekend, if I've woken up early and I can't get back to sleep,
mm-hmm.
and I go back to bed, I have what I call my drool sleep. And it's that deep REM sleep where you're just, and you wake up and you feel wonderful. And that's usually kind of that second round. But that doesn't lend itself in our culture very well because, we have to get to bed and get up.
Well, I never heard. You're the first one that has mentioned the 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Yeah, I've never heard anybody else mention that before. So this is something that is part of our circadian clock and our rhythm and the hours. And it was interesting when I had shared with you, if you had read the book, Change Your Schedule, Change Your Life, by Dr. Suhas Shirsagar.
Uh-huh.
And so in there, it talked about that's where our healing hormones, or that's where our body does the actual scrubbing bubbles type of thing. They work hard so we don't have to. And so they start cleaning and removing the toxin. All the garbage trucks come out and eliminate all that stuff. And but I'd never heard about the 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
10 p.m. to 2 a.m. because most people sleep at night. So that's,
yes.
But yeah, so if you can try to get to bed before 10, even if you have a pressing day the next day,
mm-hmm.
that 4 hours will serve you much better than say 1 to 5 or something like that. So
it's restorative. It's restorative.
Another little fun fact that a lot of people don't realize is, and studies bear this out, if you're laying in bed and your eyes are shut, you're getting much more sleep than you realize. They'll do studies where they'll have EEG monitors hooked up to you, and they will then question the patient the next day, and they'll say, "Oh, I slept for 1 hour," and invariably they've slept 6-7 hours.
Just closing your eyes.
Just closing your eyes, you actually sleep much more. Now, you may have frequent awakenings,
mm-hmm.
depending on what's happened and your health and whatnot, but you're actually getting more than you realize. And if your eyes are shut and you're laying there in bed, kind of like dolphins, half your brain's asleep, which is kind of interesting. Breathe, because one half of their brain is asleep while the other half's awake, and then it alternates. So that way they keep moving and they can go up to the surface and breathe their air.
Well, I think that many people do that when they're driving. I think I've done that. I think I've done that. I think I'm part dolphin.
There we go.
I think I figured out something new about me. Okay, so let's talk about our lifestyle. You had talked earlier about the original, how important it was back then, where people they would sleep until midnight and then they would socialize and then come back, and it just doesn't. In some countries, they still do that, I hear, right. But still not in the United States. So let's talk about our lifestyle and some of the things that we can do to improve, because when we're talking about insomnia, we're also referring to people who fall asleep real easy, but then wake up in the middle of the night, and what we can do about that.
Okay. So your sleep really begins earlier in the day, and we live in a culture where it would probably be more difficult to give up coffee than any other beverage. But if you can really try to keep your caffeine intake to a minimum, that would be very helpful. And especially don't, the earlier in the day you drink it, the better off you are. if you're not exercising, you're not going to sleep well because you may be mentally tired, but you're not going to be nearly as physically tired. And it's a little bit of a catch-22 because if you're not sleeping well, you're tired and you don't want to exercise, but then again, the following night, you really don't sleep well because you didn't exercise. So at some point, you have to kind of intervene and just force yourself to start getting more active and have more exercise.
But
so
go ahead. But the exercise is at a certain time, like
right. You want to try to
eating.
exercise by no later than 5 o'clock. Actually, from what I've read, 5 o'clock is actually a pretty good time to exercise.
AM?
But, 8, 9 o'clock at night is not, that'll get you too revved up. And then you're going to have trouble falling asleep.
Okay.
But, and then you've got your morning exercisers, and, that's fine. But usually people I'm a afternoon exerciser myself.
Yeah. And the circadian clock and the Ayurveda tradition, they say that the morning, so that clock shows morning exercising is the best for someone. But again, one size does not fit all. We have to work within our own time. And anyone who comes on and says, oh, this is the only way, right. I say, no, BS to that, because there is no such thing as the only way. Everybody is unique. So exercising is important, but not too late before you go to bed. Eating is important, but not before you go to bed.
So you want to try to finish up at least a couple, if not 3 hours before you go to bed.
Okay.
And there's a couple reasons for that. One is, and this is an important one, you create most of your growth hormone, which should be really renamed healing hormone, in your first few hours of sleep. And if you're eating right before you go to bed, you're digesting, interfere with that growth hormone production.
Correct.
If you are, if you're getting ready to go to bed and you're just dying to have something to eat, a couple things you could do. A tablespoon of honey with some ghee would be fine. You want to stay away from a lot of fat because that can interfere with your sleep. And
what about golden milk? I heard golden milk where you put milk or a milk substitute with turmeric and it's warm. Have you heard of that?
That would be fine. I'm gonna just try some here. Can you still hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Because I accidentally had my dragging speaking on and it started to dictate over your face there.
So we're not talking about a pet dragon. We're talking about your dictation dragon.
Exactly.
Okay.
I'll get that box out of my view. There we go.
Okay.
So, nutrition, I mean, that's a huge subject. There's tons of debate about what to eat, what not to eat. I teach eat fruits, greens, and vegetables. Eat a primarily vegetarian diet. If you're craving meat, have some meat. There are those carnivores out there. Of course, there's a whole school of thought. All this keto, paleo stuff has really hit the airwaves and is very popular. Mm-hmm. The problem that I see with those diets is they're generally pretty high in fat, and that's pretty tough on your liver. That makes it a lot harder for your liver to really work well. So if you can eat a primarily fruits, greens, and vegetable diet, I think most of the time people are going to be doing pretty well.
Yeah.
So if you get to nighttime and you're really starving for something, you could maybe have a piece of fruit or a little protein, like a little protein shake. But I wouldn't have something real fatty before you go to bed.
Okay.
So you get, one of the things that studies have shown is that blue light is very much like daylight. And your computer screens and televisions and all your electronics give off this blue light. Mm-hmm. So I have a program on my computer where at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, it automatically will cut out the blue light. You can see the screen change. And that's f.lux, f.lux. And you can download these things free. Another technique is you can get glasses, amber glasses or red glasses, and wear those at night. Mm-hmm. That's a little bit of a pain. But you don't want to be sitting there on a computer with this daylight essentially bombarding you right before you go to bed,
It
because
confuses your body, right?
it uses your body, and you're just not going to be able to relax and go to bed. So your time comes where, you're in bed by 10. A couple other little tips is, warm shower, sauna, warmth can help to kind of get you relaxed. Some people will do, soaks and essential oils that can help to just kind of help you unwind. And so when you go to bed, it's important to not try to sleep. And I liken it to telling people, don't think about pink elephants. Don't think about pink elephants. Don't think about pink elephants. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you lay in bed, my advice is say, I've got 8 hours. I don't have to do anything. I can just lay here and just, next thing you're out. And definitely you want to, don't sit and look at your alarm clock, turn that around. Your room needs to be completely dark. Even the night lights can give off 5 lux of light, which is enough to trick your pineal gland into thinking it's daytime. Mm-hmm. So the room needs to be, as much as possible, pitch black. Red light actually is okay. So if you're going to have a night light, have a red light.
Oh, good tip.
And that way, then, if you have to get up to go to the bathroom, whatever, it doesn't bring you to, full awareness.
Mm-hmm. That's a great tip, because, now learning about red versus blue versus amber, now people are wearing glasses throughout the day so that their body is not getting, all excited. So these are things that we can do. Do you find that the people that have a hard time falling asleep become anxious about falling asleep?
Oh,
and
absolutely.
then okay, and then or people that fall asleep easily and wake up, is that a different problem?
Well, there are different descriptions of, people having trouble falling asleep and then people tending to wake up, and then a combination of the two. I find for myself, I usually like to take somewhere between 10 and 20 milligrams of melatonin. Mm-hmm. Probably most of your viewers have tried melatonin at one time or another. One little pearl is you can go up to very, very high doses of melatonin safely. Mm-hmm. And melatonin is a great antioxidant. I met a physician who was prescribing 300 milligram melatonin capsules. They would have this made up at the compounding pharmacy. So you can play with that, because sometimes people do well on as little as 0.3 milligram. Mm-hmm. So maybe a half hour before you go to bed. Melatonin is the hormone our brain uses to tell us to sleep. So you can kind of play with that. I also find 5-HTP or tryptophan. Those are very helpful to help just kind of relax and unwind. So when you go to bed, you hopefully aren't, wired. If you get in bed and if you're there for 15, 20 minutes and you're just wide awake, get out of bed, go to the living room, whatever, go to a chair, read a novel, watch an infomercial, something dull. Don't go down the internet and do your taxes. And let yourself get sleepy and then go back to bed. Now, if that first night you only get 4 or 5 hours of sleep, I guarantee you the next night you're going to sleep better. Mm-hmm. And that means too that you can't do long naps. Little 5-10 minute power naps are okay, but if you come home in the afternoon and take 2-hour nap, you're not going to sleep. Or
you're cooked. You're cooked. And that's the thing. Many of us, our bodies are speaking to us. We know we're tired. Sometimes we just want that. We fight the nap. We fight the urge to fall asleep. But then when the nighttime comes, the stress happens all over again. Now, some of these stresses could be because of not being able to release, certain tensions throughout the day, lack of forgiveness, past traumas that we carry with us throughout our entire day and our entire life. So what are some other things do you suggest meditation, or what are kind of suggestions to bring down kind of that let go of the tension?
I think one of the easiest ways is just to learn to belly breathe. And I think we've talked about this a little bit.
Yes, last time, yeah.
So it's amazing how I haven't had a patient yet who knew how to belly breathe. I think we've heard it, but we don't really practice it.
Mm-hmm.
So you're belly breathing because your chest does not move.
Correct.
And the way to learn this is you put your hand over your belly button, and when you take a breath in, the abdomen should go out. And so a good way to learn this is to lay down flat on the floor, put your hand on your belly button, and it should go up when you take a breath in. What this does is stimulate your parasympathetic calming nervous system. So as you're describing, patients are going to bed in the fight or flight mode. They're in the adrenaline stage.
Mm-hmm.
So when you stimulate the parasympathetics, that's going to help you to start relaxing. Plus, when you focus on your breathing, it automatically takes your mind off your problems.
Correct. And there's certain things that you can't do and stress out. Like I've learned that if you smile,
Mm-hmm.
when you're smiling, you can't have a negative thought. It's something that happens.
Interesting, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. I tried that out. I was walking on the beach one day, and I was walking with a smile on my face, and I thought, well, people are going to think I did something nasty, or, did something weird, or that maybe I'm psychotic and I'm walking with a smile on my face. But then after a while, I'd use that smile to smile at somebody else, and they'd smile back at me. Some people would even look at me. Yeah. But I noticed that during that time where I was smiling, I wasn't able to have other thoughts. And when you're breathing like that, it allows you, when you're just focused on your breathing, it doesn't allow all those other that crap and garbage in your brain. So Dr. Grable, I want to pause for a second because I have Sharon who's asking some questions. Okay. And so she mentions that lavender oil and lavender sprays are supposed to help with sleep, but will this cause estrogen increase in the body? Do you know anything about that?
I've never read that. And I wouldn't be too afraid of estrogen. Hormones, that's a whole other discussion. I think a lot of ladies in particular are just terrified of estrogen. And God gives ladies plenty of estrogen, and men make estrogen. And
estrogen has a bum rap.
It really has a bum rap. I don't know if you knew this, but years ago when they did the WHI trial, which is the nurses study that got everyone all up in arms about hormone replacement, they kept the Premarin arm going for 10 years.
But Premarin isn't natural.
Well, Premarin is a very powerful combination of horse estrogens. So the point of my story is that when they followed these women out 10 years, they actually had less breast cancer than the controls.
Wow.
So if estrogen was this big bad boogeyman, we should have seen a marked increase in breast cancer. So, I always teach you want to have things in balance. So the lady who just called in, one of the things that you can do is, if the lavender seems to help you, and if you're worried about estrogen, is take some extra progesterone. You can get some over-the-counter progesterone cream. A lot of them are 10 to 20 milligram per dose. You can just rub it on your skin or have your doctor prescribe a pill. Progesterone is incredibly safe, and it helps to balance estrogen, and it's also sedating. So I use progesterone all the time to help ladies sleep.
As a matter of fact, I'm going to be working with you to kind of balance out after the breast implant extractions. My body is kind of like a little out of whack here. Yeah. And we discovered some hormonal issues that I'm having right now. And yeah. I am taking progesterone, and I've been taking progesterone for a while. Someone said that because I didn't have a uterus that I shouldn't take progesterone, but someone else said, well, but you're having issues with sleep, the progesterone will help you. So what is what works, what doesn't work, Dr. Grable?
Progesterone receptors all over. I mean, you have them in your brain, you have them in your breath. I mean, the body's loaded with progesterone receptors. Plus, from cholesterol, your body makes pregnenolone, then progesterone. And from progesterone, it makes all the other steroid hormones. So it's really a mother hormone. And men need progesterone just like women. I think I told you last time we had our podcast that I learned that men make as much progesterone as women in the first half of their cycle.
Wow.
We always think of progesterone being a female hormone, you know. So we don't need to be afraid of these things. You have to use them in balance and be reasonable. But it's a kind of a long-winded answer to her question. But
No.
lavender, I think that's fine. It's been well touted as being helpful. So go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. And so she also wants to know, she says, taking tart cherry juice extract at bedtime, will it help get you to sleep? And is there any side effects of long-term use? And I wanted to ask you that about melatonin because, so let's start with the tart juice and let's move on to the melatonin.
That's an interesting question. I assume you're taking that for your gout. Their fruit is fine. I'm a huge fan of fruit. I think that the only caution I would have is if you're really prone to hypoglycemia, which some people are, if you eat something sweet at bedtime, sometimes 3-4 hours later, your sugar can kind of bottom out.
Okay.
And that can wake you up. And that's very common between 1 and 3 in the morning. You find people will tend to waken. And that's liver time in the Chinese clock.
Liver time, yes.
So, but I don't think, I'm not sure why the tart cherry juice at bedtime, maybe just to help keep gouty symptoms down or something, but.
Is that what you do for, Sharon, can you share with us if you have gout? I would be curious if that's why you're doing it. So when it comes to habit forming or side effects, can melatonin and taking melatonin keep the melatonin from producing naturally in your body?
Well, you're going to have some down regulation of receptors and things like that anytime you take a hormone. But I get Russ Blaylock's newsletter, and Russ is a former neurosurgeon, and I've never seen any of his stuff or read anywhere else where people were really concerned about that. It's not like if you took melatonin for a year and then stopped, that you would never make melatonin again. I never read anything like that.
Yeah.
And, so I just find that for me personally, it helps. I've got some other issues that affect my sleep. So I find that the melatonin and 5-HTP are very, very helpful.
So how much 5-HTP should we take, Dr. Grable?
You could take as little as 50 milligram. I don't usually go above 500. I usually take 2 100s, so that'd be 200 milligram. And 5-HTP is a derivative of tryptophan. We've all heard of tryptophan, and I'll correct a little wives' tale. Everyone thinks that it's high in turkey. And turkey doesn't have any more tryptophan than the fact that we get sleepy after Thanksgiving is we're just overeating and all is rushing to our stomach. So, but some people like tryptophan a little better, but see, 5-HTP crosses the blood-brain barrier better. So that's why I prefer that form.
And
so 100 milligrams is fine.
Now, going back to the melatonin, I was given a tip many years ago in the classroom by a psychiatrist who was using melatonin to help people with PTSD. Okay. And the soldiers that were coming from the war, they couldn't sleep. And so the way that she was working with them was with melatonin. The first thing they want to do is for a patient with that PTSD is to be able to sleep so that the symptoms are. So she was saying that the trick to taking and figuring out your dose, and this is what I've learned, maybe you can confirm this or not, but she says what they do is they take, she suggested the liquid sublingual, and you do a dropperful under your tongue. And if in half an hour you don't fall asleep, the next day you do 2 dropperfuls. If in half an hour you don't fall asleep, the next day you do 3, and you do that until you get to 5 dropperfuls. Once 5 dropperfuls, then I guess, it's time to try something else. But some people, like you were saying, people are using, depending on what the body needs. But that doesn't solve the problem for people who are waking up in the middle of the night. So she was telling them to use melatonin extended release.
Right.
So have you heard about that?
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And Russ, so I just mentioned, he takes a combination of immediate and long acting,
Yes.
so that he's kind of covered through the night. But yeah.
So that's a great tip for people who want to sleep.
Yeah, or you could even, if you wake up to go to the bathroom, which many of us do, you could take a little extra melatonin if it's the middle of the night to help you get all the way through. But yeah, no, the extended release ones, that's fine.
Good. Okay. So now there's a lot of, you talked about nutrition, you talked about lifestyle and some of the things that we can do as far as establishing an environment. This is time for rest, and our body's going to start slowing down. Like when I start brushing my teeth, I could probably fall asleep. Just that the process of flossing and brushing and all that. I know it's time for Betty Bye.
Yeah.
That's it. So, but there are people who think that they need to do like something else. Like there are people that feel that they must smoke marijuana or take other like valerian or some other treatments that may help or may not help. Can you share anything about some of these over-the-counter herbals or any other things that people might want to try if the melatonin doesn't work?
Sure. Well, if you guys have a pen and paper,
Yes.
lemon balm has been shown to be helpful.
How much?
I'd say follow the dose. I don't know the dose
Yeah.
off the top of my head.
Okay.
I don't have to use too much of that because I find that, the things we've already discussed usually work pretty well. Kava is very good.
Kava?
Kava, although you want to make sure, there's been some brouhaha in the past about kava and liver and so forth, but I believe that they've isolated the toxin that was in it previously that caused a problem, so it's back on the market.
Mm-hmm.
Hops is very good. That can help to just kind of calm you down.
Not beer hops.
Not beer hops, no.
Okay. Just checking.
Yeah. Let's see what else. There's, there was an interesting, and then of course valerian came up earlier, so that would be very helpful.
Okay.
Magnesium. I have a lot of patients who use the magnesium calm, and that's not any kind of special blend of magnesium, but for some reason, it's a powder. You can get this online.
You're drinking it, right?
And that really seems to help patients. Magnesium tends to have a relaxing effect on your muscles, and so taking some extra magnesium at bedtime can be very helpful. Found an article where probiotics can be of value in helping with sleep.
Okay.
Another intriguing thing is I stumbled on, when I was preparing this, a device. I think Joe Mercola talks about it. It's called Soma Pulse.
Okay, say that again, please.
Soma Pulse, SOMA Pulse, just like it sounds, PULSE. And this is a device that has PEMF at 10 hertz, 10 cycles per second. And so that has been shown in some studies to help get people relaxed and sleep and so forth. And there may be some competing machines on the market. I found one that when I was poking around that saying, ours is much better than Soma Pulse, and we can do this and do that. And it was $15,000. So
wow. Okay. Well, for $15,000,
right. So,
yeah.
But that'd be something one could certainly look at trying. Let's see what else would be of value.
What about some supplements that we take throughout the day that could cause us insomnia?
Well, interestingly, antioxidants and anti-inflammatories should be taken earlier in the day.
Okay, so that makes sense. Blueberries and strawberries during the morning.
Ironically, inflammation actually improves sleep. Now, not that we want to be inflamed, but there are studies showing that antioxidants and anti-inflammatories at bedtime can interfere with your sleep. So I would tend to steer clear of those a little bit.
And you just finished saying that inflammation helps people sleep better?
Yeah, it's kind of a crazy thing.
You would think that that would be the opposite. Wow.
Yeah, and and what's interesting is insomnia can lead to inflammation. It's kind of a double-edged sword, and it gets a little confusing when you start looking at some of the different neurotransmitter studies and so forth. But the thing is that you definitely don't want to do a lot of those antioxidants and anti-inflammatories right at bedtime.
So you do it in the morning, which is good.
Right.
Okay.
That's what I would suggest. We talked a little bit before we went on the air. There is a derivative of B3 called NAD. And NAD is very important in the production of ATP for our mitochondria, for what's called redox signaling, which has to do with the movement of electrons. Well, studies show that if you increase NAD plus, which is the NAD minus electrons,
okay,
that can help to activate anti-aging genes in our body and can also help to improve circadian rhythm, which is one of the things we're talking about.
Yes, yes.
So I have a few specific things that one can do to increase NAD plus.
And by increasing NAD plus, is this giving us more youth?
This will give you more youth. It will help to produce healthier mitochondria. Those are little powerhouses of the cell.
Yeah.
Helps to improve circadian rhythm and brain function.
Okay.
Helps to decrease autoimmunity. It can also help to improve the burning of fat.
Ooh.
Decreasing inflammation.
I'm sure everybody were writing down. Wait, what?
They kind of picked up that, right? Yeah. So I've got 6 or 7 things here that can be used. So fasting, interestingly. And many of you have probably heard about the intermittent fasting. That's really become very popular. And I subscribe to that, where you eat from noon to 6 p.m. And it's amazing how often when we get up, and we're kind of taught, and there's different opinions on this, breakfast should be the biggest meal of your day, and so forth and so on. But a lot of people, when they wake up, they're maybe not really all that hungry. So I tell people to eat when you're hungry. Listen to your body. And if you're not hungry till lunchtime, then have lunch then, have your first meal. Ketosis, which is a direct result of
not eating.
Yeah, not eating, allowing yourself to get in a state of ketosis can help to increase the NAD plus. Exercise. We're back to exercise again. And, just a tip with that, some people who, if they're listening and they're sedentary and they hear exercise and they just, oh God, I don't want to exercise.
They just 10 people just came up.
Just start. And I'll tell you a little quick anecdote, which I thought was really interesting, was a fellow I met years ago. This guy was a runner, but he had shared how years ago he had been quite overweight, 250 pounds or something. And he just got fed up and decided he wanted to lose weight. So the first day he ran around his car once and finished with his hands on the hood of the car gasping for air. He could barely make it around one time. So the next day he goes around twice, the next day 3 times. We got to where he's going 250 times around one way, 250 times around the other. Well, that took 1.5 years.
Wow.
Then he started jogging. When I met him, he was running 6 miles a day, weighed 160 pounds, and felt fantastic.
Wow.
And it was just a testament to that. Just get started. Just do a little bit more, a little bit more. So fasting would be good. Saunas and heat. And, we can talk about detox and stuff.
Yeah, and perspiration. There's 3, peeing, pooping, and perspiration, the 3 Ps.
The 3 Ps, there you go.
That sounds like a great title of our next show.
So, saunas and heat. Fructose, which is fruit. I'm a big fan of fruit. There's over 300 references to fruit in the Bible. That's not there by accident. And this is one of the things I get frustrated with a lot of the paleo keto people, is they act like fruit's is poison. Many of you have seen Dr. Gundry and all his stuff, and he's just, almost anti-fruit. Now, my humble opinion, I think these people are misled because they're looking at fructose data where you're taking fructose outside of the fruit, and you just can't do that. You have to look at the whole fruit. So we have fasting, we have ketosis, which is a result of fasting, exercise, sauna heat, fructose, and then 2 supplements. And I'll spell these out. So nicotinamide.
Is that part of nicotine?
No, it just kind of sounds that way. It's actually nicotinamide is the technical name for B3.
Oh.
So that's spelled NicoTinamide, nicotinamide, riboside, RIBOSIDE.
Okay.
So nicotinamide riboside.
Okay.
And oxaloacetate. And oxaloacetate is a part of what's called the Krebs cycle. It has to do with mitochondria. And believe it or not, Lily, oxaloacetate has been shown to treat brain cancer.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing? You know, people, it's a little perk or little fun fact for anybody who's out there. If you know anybody with that, be sure to check out oxaloacetate because it's FDA drug orphan. Now you have to, take huge amounts of this stuff.
Sure. Well, I mean,
but still, if you have nothing else to, consider.
You know what, Dr. Grable, that reminds me, I received a request. They asked if you feel comfortable treating patients that have cancer.
I have to be careful how I phrase this.
Yes, I know. Help them heal the body. Treat the body.
I put, I don't treat cancer, talk to your oncologist, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So what I do is I have a lot of interest in cancer. I've studied it extensively. I have 40 pages of condensed notes from things that I've read in meetings and books and yada, yada. And I believe personally that the body has a natural ability to heal. Mm-hmm. The key is finding those little key factors that contributed to the problem. And that, cancer is a huge topic. I mean, we could spend hours on that.
Yeah.
But if a patient has cancer and they want someone who can support them, I'm more than happy to do that. And we have a variety of tricks and tools.
What people don't understand is if they have a disease, there's a deficiency. There's a deficiency in the body. And once we give the body what it needs, the body will heal naturally. But we've been conditioned to believe that we are chemotherapy deficient or radiation deficient. And the reality is that once our body has what it needs, it'll start working towards healing. Right. And so, but anyway, I understand exactly what you're saying. And I love the fact that that the body has an ability to heal naturally once given what it needs. So I totally get it. You don't cure cancer. You don't work with cancer. You work with the body to heal.
And if you happen to get better, great.
There we go. There you go.
It's a nice side effect.
I think it is. I think it's a wonderful side effect. Okay, so before, because we're getting really close here, and I have not even thanked all my sponsors and all of you who are watching today. I want to, Dr. Grable is a wonderful, wonderful sponsor, and I love having him on. It's very rare that you will find a classroom setting like this where people can interact with the guests, where people can, or the teachers, where we could all my viewing friends, my listening friends, that you can have a part and learn and grow along with us all together. And it's called the Lillian McDermott Radio Show. And you can go to whenyouneedafriend.com. Please subscribe while you're there so that you get free gifts and you'll hear about who is in the classroom with all their links. You'll get, my 90-day challenge to self-love ebook, because I do want to talk about, trauma, Dr. Grable, and how that can keep us from sleeping as well. But I want to encourage you to learn and take action by subscribing. If you haven't subscribed yet, why? It's time to be a part and take a stand. And so while you're at the website, make sure you like and follow, you share, help us grow the show, like and make comments, because interaction like that is so valuable. It's like currency when it comes to social media, and that's how you give us that currency back. And so I want to encourage you to check out my sponsors page. These are all the businesses and individuals who have said, I am taking a stand. I do believe in responsibility, and I am going to support you in the classroom. Dr. Stephen Grable is one of them. And for those of you who want to learn more about Dr. Grable, he's in Jacksonville Beach, but people from all over, I go to see him. I'm going to be going to see him pretty soon. And I get to see him once a month here in the classroom. But you can call him at 904-247-7455. Or you can go to drgrable.com. Is that where they can find you on the internet, right, Dr.
Right.
Grable?
drgrable.com.
drgrable.com. And of course, there's Liberty Health Share, Keep Me Safe Organics. I mean, there's so many chemicals. Yesterday, we talked about with Dr. Joe Pizzorno, the toxins and the chemicals that are in our skin, like mercury, lead, and fluoride, and arsenic even, that could cause us to be sick. And could be that drop that fills the cup over. So those are things that we can do, is like put on beauty products, skincare products that are toxin-free, organic, and are non-synthetic. So that's Keep Me Safe Organics. You get 10% off when you go through the portal there, the website. First Alternative Care, check them out. It's an incredible group to be able to have 24/7 non-urgent medical, family practice, dermatology, and 3 hours a year of behavioral health help for the entire household for $45. It's incredible. The pharmacy in Merritt Island, Dr. Grable was talking about compounds and progesterone. That's where you can get it too, and you can get 20% off when you mention my name. Let them know Lily sent you. And Live Longer Medical in Brevard County, Indy Atlantic, who's working on not the supplements, but you can get your bioidentical hormones to help balance you out as well, from the inside out. And again, Dr. Stephen Grable, you can go to Dr. Grable. He's functional, integrative, and natural, as natural medicine, where your body can turn around and heal naturally. So Dr. Grable, as someone who is more than an MD or a medical detective or someone who partners up with your patients, do you feel sometimes that you become a counselor as well?
Oh, all day long. Yeah, it's huge. Yeah, there's, we were talking about cancer a few minutes ago. If the listeners look up German New Medicine, the fellow who wrote that, the MD, I think he's proven that cancer starts with emotion.
Is that Hammer, Dr. Hammer?
Right, exactly. So, there's a couple of little tips. We're all on a path, right? Mm-hmm. And we all have our little things, and our teachers come in a variety of ways. But if we can learn to observe, to let go as much as possible of ego, and to let go of judgment, those are the things that really get us in trouble and cause pain. And there's volumes and books and teachers that have talked about these things. I don't know if I ever mentioned the 4 agreements. Did I ever mention that ancient Toltec wisdom? Don Miguel Ruiz.
Well, Don Miguel Ruiz Jr. has been is a regular on the.
Really? Oh,
yes.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I want to leave your listeners before we part. There's 2 things very important I need to mention. One, alcohol, which is very common. Alcohol actually interferes with sleep. I hate to tell you. Now, I know that people like their cocktail at night, and that's fine if you have it early in the evening. But having a drink or 2 before you go to bed to try to help you sleep is not the wisest thing to do, because that's not going to help you very much. And the other thing is your airway. If you have a narrowed airway, if you're not getting oxygen, that's going to contribute huge problems. So your partner can be very helpful in listening to you sleep. There's a lot of apps that you can download now that can kind of give you an idea about, whether you're waking up a lot or not. So checking for and ruling out sleep apnea and treating that, that's just crucial. Mm-hmm. Because if you're just, you can imagine if someone just every few minutes was choking you throughout the night, you're obviously not going to get a good night's sleep. So those would be 2 things that I definitely would also take a look at.
Well, I tell you what, I think there's still even more that we can discuss after the class, after we finish up the podcast. And for those of you who are listening on podcasts, or maybe watching on YouTube, you can be a part of the classroom, interact with our teachers, and all you have to do is go to facebook.com/Lillian's radio show, and you'll be able to be a part of this movement of taking ownership for our life. There's so many. I mean, we just dipped the toe in when it comes to insomnia, and I am just so grateful, Dr. Grable, that you're willing to take out. You work hard all day long, and you're able to come and share your knowledge with us. So thank you so much for that.
You're more than welcome.
And for those of you, if you like this, make sure you comment, you like and share, give it the thumbs up. If you're watching on YouTube, that's our currency for all of us who do this. That's our currency, all of the love that we get from you. So I thank you for all the love today. We're going to continue our conversation after the podcast because we have some other things that we need to discuss. So until now, please remember, it's time to take our sleep back, so that we can take our health back and be healthy all over again. Thank you, Dr. Grable. And please remember, for those of you who are watching, we'll be right here waiting for you worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. This is Lillian McDermott and Dr. Steve Grable wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever. Yay, that was a good one.
The opinions and advice expressed on the Lillian McDermott radio show are intended for the individual callers and guests on the program and are presented to our wider audience solely for general educational purposes. Please act responsibly and consult personally with your own medical, psychological, or nutritional expert before taking any steps to improve your life.
Okay, thank you so much. For those of you who have stuck around, our teachers' pets, actually a lot of you come and join us after the broadcast is up, because we have like this little private session with Dr. Grable and our teachers. But Sharon said she does have gout in a finger, and she takes tart cherry juice extract, but my daughter is in her 20s and likes it, and it helps her sleep.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I've never read where they were, studied it or used it, but I'd say go for it. That's fine.
Yes, yes. Now, you had talked about at the end sleep disruptors like alcohol. How about sugar? What are other sleep disruptors that we might be, like processed foods and things like that?
Yeah. We should try to keep grains and sugar to a minimum anyway.
Okay.
But especially at night. And a lot of that's because you're going to get hypoglycemic. So if you have, a high simple carb meal for dinner, you can count on 1 o'clock waking up with hypoglycemia. So the listeners can look up resistant starches. For example, one of them is called high maize. That's HI-MAIZE. And so there's different resistant starches out there that can help to kind of stabilize your blood sugar. Huh. So that could be helpful. We talked about caffeine, sleep disruptors. Another big one, I think, is EMF. Mm-hmm. And we're swimming in a sea of this junk. They're getting ready to go to 5G, which is kind of scary. Mm. So what I try to do is get ready for bed and then shut off the breaker to my bedroom. So I just flipped the little breaker.
That was the best tip. That's a great tip.
Yeah, it's easy. And then you can pull the plug on the router. When you get up in the morning, just flip that switch, plug your router in. It takes maybe a couple of minutes to reboot. And then you don't have all of that electromagnetic noise affecting you while you sleep. Mm-hmm. And especially the kids that have their cell phones next to their heads in bed is just absolutely insanity. So I keep mine in the master bathroom because I use that as my sort of alarm clock. And so that's far enough away that, that's not going to cause me any problems.
And you can hear it, and you have to get up to turn it off.
I have a light sleep. I wake up pretty easily. So
I'm a pretty light sleeper as well. I have to tell you that a long time ago, we bought Fitbits. It's when Fitbits were, I'm looking at mine right now,
Yeah.
And one of the reasons that I wanted my Fitbit, and it got to the point, Dr. Grable, that I wouldn't get out or take a step unless I had my Fitbit on, because I wanted to count for every step that I made. But here's one of the things that I wanted is I wanted to learn about my sleep cycle. So of course you're supposed to sleep with this, but I'm very sensitive to these EMFs. And I couldn't sleep with my watch on. And I said, the heck with this, I'm taking this off. And I don't even use it.
Yeah. Some people are very, very EMF sensitive. There's a, I don't know if you've heard of, there's a group that live up in the DC area where they're right near this radio antenna. Mm-hmm. And this radio antenna is so sensitive that it can pick up a snowflake hitting the ground.
Wow.
So these people are basically living, there's no electricity, and that's the only place they can live in comfort, because they are so sensitive to any electrical fields and so forth.
How do you know that that's the problem? How do you know?
Well, I mean, some of it could be psychological. I mean, it's you never know. We carry a product, and your listeners can look this up, called Energy Dots. And I ran across Elizabeth Plurd at a cancer meeting a couple of years ago. It was actually a Lee Cowden meeting. Mm-hmm. And she had a little booth there that they were selling these little magnetic, in fact, I got one around my neck. Mm-hmm. You can see it. It's this little thing right there. Uh-huh. Anyway, she's a human EMF meter. And she was so paralyzed by EMF, she couldn't leave her house. Yeah. And she went through every device on the market, nothing worked. Yeah. And she stumbled on this little company, had these little magnetic imprinted discs. So she thought, well, I got nothing to lose. So she tried it, and not only given her life back, but she and her husband bought the company. And wow. She's a scientist gal, so she's trying to do research on it. None of these things completely block EMF, because only a Faraday cage will do that, but they're what are called harmonizers. So they can take, I liken it to shining a light through a colored filter. So the light coming out, there's light still going through, but it sort of changed the frequency pattern, if you will. Mm-hmm. So she was at this meeting with, at a hotel room with, fluorescent lights and laptops everywhere. And she had one on her phone and one on her purse, and she was fine. Wow. So I started using them, and I've had success with my patients. They felt helpful.
I'd like to learn more about them, because I've been working with a company in Israel that has these products, and like a shield, like I've got one right here. Like if I use my laptop, this is what I put on my laptop. Or if I'm working with my phone, I'll put this on my lap to protect, because a lot of people are having side effects from, some people are having sterility, and it's just amazing. A guy driving with a phone in the middle of his legs, and it's classic. And it was affecting his I guess being able to have children. And so he made that little tweak, just a simple little tweak like that, and was able to conceive. So, it's just, we just need to stop and say, how did people do it before? They didn't have all of this. Why have we become so addicted to more? Like 3G wasn't enough. 4G isn't enough. 5G, what I'm hearing about 5G, and this is just what I heard, is that they can hone in on you from far away and just cause you to have a heart attack. It's like they can just like people, and it's crazy. And I don't want to be fear mongering, but it's like, you need to
go to YouTube and type in 5G and Robert Wood. And this guy, I believe he's like an engineer type. And he talks, the thing that not only are we going to be bombarded with more EMF, what's really spooky about 5G is the fact that they're going to know we're going to be like China. I mean, they're going to have every single person, they're going to know what you're doing 24/7.
Yeah. And by the way, I can't say this too loud, because I've asked my husband to take her out of the house. There's another woman that lives in this house. Her name is Alexa. And I've asked her to leave. She needs to go. I don't even talk to Siri.
I frankly personally don't really care if they analyze my buying patterns and they want to, bring things to my attention, but I think there's always much more devious purposes in mind that they have militarily and otherwise that, we need to try to, keep our privacy as much as we can.
I value privacy, and I think
we can fight it. You can talk to your local congressperson and get educated about it. So you sound intelligent, and just, if we put our foot down, we can block these things. But if we just sit back and do nothing, they're just gonna, the technocrats, they're just chomping at the bit to get these things up and running.
Yeah. Well, we just need to we need to think of the longer term. There's so many different topics like forced vaccination, EMFs. There's so many topics out there that we just need to stop allowing everybody else to make the decisions for us. Right. And we need the power of information. But anyway, with that in mind, I want people to know that EMFs can affect your sleep. And if you're one of those, make sure you follow Dr. Grable's advice, which I thought was genius when he said, just shut your breaker. Okay, instead of the router, that's a great idea. Lloyd Burrell, who has been in the classroom, he's coming back. He's working on his book, and he's coming back after his book is done. But he was a computer programmer who all of a sudden, I believe that's what he was. All of a sudden, he just, as the computers got stronger and EMFs got stronger, he was incapacitated. And so now he's an advocate of people making sure that their environment, because it has to do with habits, it has to do with lifestyle, it has to do with environment, it has to do with, the things that we're taking and putting in our body and our deficiencies as well. So if we go through that checklist, and Dr. Grable, I'm glad that you allow us, you work with us as your patients to go through that checklist. And so for those of you who want to have Dr. Grable as your doctor as well, you can make sure when you call, you let them know that you have been following him on in the classroom and that you appreciate his time. You can call him at 904-247-7455, or you can email. What is your email, Dr. Grable?
DRSGRABLE@gmail.
Yes. Yeah, we did that at Gmail. And if you want to meet Dr. Grable on Zoom and have him talk to you privately, I'm sure you can arrange that as well. So Dr. Grable, thank you so much for everything you do and for being an out-of-the-box thinker, because you could take your education and say, I learned this, I'm going to stick with this, and I'm going to, that's all I'm going to do. But you said, you know what? It's not working. I need to do more. Right. So I am very grateful that you said, I can do more. And you have. And so thank you for that.
My pleasure.
You're okay. So it's time to say goodbye. And I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of the day. It's time to now get ready for Betty Bye. Okay, so we'll see you guys. Bye.